Welcome guys to the second channel. You're watching Talking 4x4 and this is where it's going to be from now on. More relaxed, we've got some couches here and we are going to talk about electrics. We have a special guest, I'll introduce him very shortly. Now this electrics, we have spoken about it before, but this is how to plan your build. And we're going to cover a lot of general stuff and a lot of layman term stuff. Well, I'll try and keep our guest to layman terms because he's a very smart and technical dude. Let's meet him right now. How are you, Heiner?
Hey, very well. Thank you very much, Ronny, for the introduction.
No worries, mate. We're missing something here.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been waiting.
There you go, mate.
Thanks, mate. I grabbed one of your stubbies.
Yeah, go for it, mate. You know we can get one of those?
On your website?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Cheers,
All right. I think we should start from the very beginning. The bloke who's planning a build. Now, before we go into the three different category types we're going to talk about, so we're going to talk about the weekend warrior, the young guy, or the young lady, and we're going to talk about the established couple. Then we're going to talk about the guys who want all the tech, and the rich couple. A rich couple? Wealthy couple?
Yeah.
Comfortable couple.
Comfortable
couple.
is probably a better word for it.
Yeah. Because rich couple, they'll be helicoptering.
Most likely. Yeah.
Yes. But before that, let's talk about when someone comes into your shop, because I know you stop everyone straight away and you ask them a very vital question that tells a lot. Share that with us.
We do. So a lot of people do come in and tell me what they want in terms of that product. I usually try to stop everybody and find out what their use case actually is. Where I'm gonna ask questions, how do you actually camp? What are you doing? How much are you driving? How much are you actually gonna be stationary? What are you using while you're there? What do you really need to use? What do you need in creature comforts? And so on and so forth. So I try to find out how these people are actually gonna be using their setup to then try to establish how they want to be camping, because everybody's a bit different.
Yeah.
Nobody goes camping the same way. There's a million different ways of doing it. Once I've figured out how they're going to get out there to enjoy their time, I then try to find out what can we use for it. What is the budget? Sometimes what they want to do and what their budget is doesn't match up, and then we have to talk about that, because you don't need to ruin. It doesn't need to ruin the fun if you don't have all the money for it. You can get away cheaper. You don't need to do induction cooking straight away. You can get a gas cooker. It's a lot cheaper.
You cook on a fire.
That as well. Yeah, absolutely. So establish the use case is the first thing, and then figure out the budget, and then find the right products for it.
There's a lot of questions there, and that really highlights the amount of things you got to think about.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I cut you off then. What were you about to say?
I was about to say, once you know how much you're driving, that is usually the first question that I ask. The first question is, how much do you drive? So that brings us pretty much to the first character that we can talk about. That's usually a lot of the younger people that go out and they just want to drive all day. Because they love four-wheel driving, they only park up at night at a certain stage. They crank the music, they have beers, and the next morning, as soon as everybody feels capable to drive again, straight in the car, drive again for the whole day. Those people usually quite easily get away with a smart solenoid that turns on, a cheap AGM battery, and that runs a fridge.
Runs a fridge, powers their phones, a couple of GoPros maybe?
Yeah, maybe something like that, but compared to a fridge, all the little lights and stuff like that, unless you put massive spotlights on there to play footy in the dark, then you can pretty much neglect that compared to the fridge. So if you just want to run your fridge from evening to morning, a very simple setup will do you. You do not need to spend a lot of money. You don't need a DC-DC charger with most cars. Newer cars, different story. But if you got an old four-wheel drive with a constant voltage alternator, you have to think about that is almost like a pump, a constant voltage alternator that runs on a constant pressure. So it will always have the same pressure, so always pump out the same amount. And if you now put an empty bucket to it, it will fill it up relatively quick. Think about that bucket even as a balloon. So it will always pump the balloon up to 14 volt, or think about it as 14 psi or something like that. Newer cars are different. Newer cars have got alternators that after a while reduce the voltage, which is okay for a starting battery, but for a cycling battery, which your fridge battery is, because that cycles up and down, you have to put the whole charge back into it. Now, if you try to charge a battery with a lower voltage, it's like trying to inflate a balloon with a lower pressure. If you got a constant voltage alternator or a constant pressure pump, it will always blow all the way back up. But if you haven't blown your balloon all the way back up before the pressure is being reduced, it will only have so much in there, but it will not become more.
If the alternator gets hot, for example, of a heat compensating volt alternator, or like a smart one, it'll drop it, so that means that it will just maintain the power going through, but it won't charge the battery.
Not fully. You might only get 50% charge into your battery, and then you might not make it through the night. You might still be just okay, but
if you do a couple of nights in a row, that's where
Okay. And generally, those cars are a bit more expensive, so whoever buys a car like that is probably also able to afford a DC-DC charger.
Sure.
I'm more talking about old GQs, 80 series, old 70 series, and all that sort of stuff. In those cars, you get away with the smart solenoid. It's what everybody's been doing back in the days. The solenoids weren't even smart. A lot of them was just a switch.
Okay.
And that worked because the alternator still had that
it's just
constant
pumping out whatever's there.
For the overnighter, that's going to be enough.
Sure. So what would a setup like that cost for someone, do you think? Can we get away with around $500, $600, $700 maybe for a weekend
You can
warrior?
buy smart solenoids for as little as $100. I would recommend spending about $150 because you can get a red arc unit, which is quite good. AGM battery, spend at least $250. $300 you get quite reasonable
you get a
ones.
pretty good one.
$400 you get really good ones. Make sure you spend a little bit more on the cables. Voltage drop is an issue in those systems, so you have to make sure you overkill the cable, and then you should be fine.
So don't go cheap on a cable, guys. That's what you're saying.
No, just overkill the cables. If you do a cheap setup like that, overkill the cables and the connectors. That's how you get a lot more runtime out of your fridge.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because you're allowing the maximum power that this cheaper system can push out, get to the end result. All right, well, let's talk about then the established couple. They're more like a touring. So what a lot of people who head out to the bush, what they need as opposed to what they think they need.
Same question. I start with what are your driving cycles, what are your stationary cycles. So the next type of people, if you call them that, would be people who do a lot of four-wheel driving as well, but then they go, this is a nice spot, let's stay for 2-3 days. That usually means your battery will get empty at some stage. You want to prevent that, so you have to have some sort of solar setup with you. Because even if you just run a normal fridge and you want to run a cheap AGM battery, that might make it for, I don't know, 24 hours, maybe 36 if you're lucky. And you need to do something with solar. So you try to add to the setup we just talked about, you try to add solar to that.
Which at what point you may need a DC-DC charger that has a solar input, or you need a solar.
Would make a lot of sense.
For
that price bracket, I would say
put it in one unit.
Yeah, spend about $400 for a good AGM battery. Spend another $500, $550 on a good DC-DC charger. Add solar to it. You can even use a blanket. Blankets do make a lot of sense when you're stationary because you do not want to park in the beating sun. Yes. You want to park out of the sun. So solar blanket makes a lot of sense because you can be in the shade.
Yeah.
Solar can be in the sun.
That makes a lot of sense actually, because a lot of people go for the permanent panels, and the way I see permanent panels, they're great if you're parking in your driveway and you leave your fridge on, right? That's how I use them on my cruiser. If I go to camp somewhere, say in the cruiser, those solar panels are going to do nothing because I always park in shade.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have an awning, and I don't have an awning on a cruiser, so I'll park for the shade, which then means I have to get the solar blanket out. With a 10-meter cable. Because usually when you're in the shade, you go right in the shade because the sun moves. You want to make sure you're in that shade all day. So 10-meter long cable with Anderson plug at each end, that'll get me by from base camping, which I only do when I've got the family.
Yeah. And a key there is to overkill the solar. I always recommend to people, if you think you need 150 watt of solar panels, buy 300. Because
You are so right there.
Because I always try to overkill it by a factor of 100%, because there will be overcast days. The angle that you put the panel on is not going to be ideal. Something's going to blow over that panel. It is never going to be as good as it could be in theory.
You're never going to get the maximum out of it.
Never.
Because you got heat, you got angle of sun, and you got shade, right?
Yeah. So
Dirt.
Yeah, dirt. Big thing. Scratching over a while and everything. So you put about another $1,000 for a big solar blanket to it. That's roughly what they cost. A 300 watt solar blanket will cost you about $1,000. You can go cheaper solar blankets. Other brands have got solar blankets, really low-end brands, where the output voltage is quite low. You have to avoid those, especially if you use them with DC-DC charger, something that's got an MPPT regulator in there. Because if the voltage drops too low and you want to feed an MPPT charge regulator with a solar panel where the voltage is too low, it never goes into boost charge mode. It will only sit on float charge mode.
So it's just maintaining it.
Yeah, so some really cheap panels only have got 15 volt output.
Sure.
So means if you're talking, this is where you want to charge the battery to.
Yeah.
And your solar panel is only about that much more in pressure to pump from one side to the other. The MPPT regulator will take a bit of that pressure.
Okay.
And if now the output voltage drops below the voltage that you want to charge the battery to, it doesn't work anymore. So it sort of turns off.
Okay.
And you will keep being in float charge mode, and people will go, well, solar is rubbish, it never charges right. You have to get better panels. So you have to make sure your solar panels run on about 18.5 volts, 17.5 volts, somewhere there.
Okay.
Maximum power point voltage is really important.
Sure. And the only way you can see the voltage coming out of it is if you have some kind of a display, or you have an app or something with a shunt so you can see it. That's the only way you're going to know what's coming out of it, unless you get an inline voltage meter.
That is the cheapest way of measuring that. If you just want something really cheap to see what's happening solar-wise, just get one of those plug-in-between ones. That works quite well.
Yeah, basically, cheaper solar, avoid, go for the more top end if you're going to spend your money.
That is money well spent. I always try to tell people, don't go for a massive battery bank. That will still be empty at some stage. Make sure you can recharge your smaller battery bank each and every day. Because then you can stay out indefinitely.
Yeah.
And it's a lot cheaper as well.
Because essentially a solar blanket is endless power during the day.
Exactly.
Middle of the day.
Yeah. But if you get it right, you recharge each and every day, there's no point you have to leave. You only need to leave when your water or your food runs out. But your energy will just be there.
Sure. I wanted to include a whole thing about solar today, but I don't think we have time for it.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the comfortable people. And then after we talk about the comfortable people, we're going to get Chris in and talk about his Prado build, because we had a whole meeting beforehand talking about how we were going to fit his Prado out and what we were thinking about. And we can ask Chris all the questions about what did he realise today, because that'll be a lot helpful for these guys as well to sort of, because there'll be a lot of things that he realised today that he can share with the audience.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the comfortable couple.
So the comfortable couple
Let's describe the comfortable couple first.
So the comfortable couple, I think, will have a fridge. They'll also take a freezer, because they've bought somewhere where they
fridge
can get
and freezer
food
maybe.
So they will have a fridge and a freezer, or a combined one. They will most likely use 240 volt appliances, because they would like to run a coffee machine. There might be a hairdryer involved. There might be a sandwich press, or the creature comfort things. You want to get out there and you want to do it in comfort. You don't want to go like, oh, I wish I had that. If you know what I mean. There's a lot of people out there, and I get it. It is possible.
There are a lot of people out there.
Yeah, you don't have to go camping like 20 years back in time. It is possible to build things so you're pretty much power independent, and you can use whatever you want to. Really, there's no limit to You can pretty much have a house on wheels.
Oh man, there's even aircons in bloody rooftop tents, aircons and swags. I know a particular person who uses aircon and swag, and hey, he has a coffee machine too. But you know the bad thing about it? The good thing about it is, you can't with him, you got coffee.
Yeah.
The bad thing is, he sleeps into a bloody 10 o'clock.
I heard about that.
Yeah, you know who you are. The only thing he's missing is induction cooking.
Well, that is even the next step. Induction cooking uses so much energy.
It would.
You really have to spend a lot of money to do that in a sustainable way. But let's say the comfortable couple that doesn't do induction cooking, still does gas cooking, but wants 240 for coffee machines and stuff like that, you're definitely talking lithium batteries. Because if you want to use big inverters, you should really use a lithium battery because it just works so much better. You also want to make sure that battery bank is big enough so you can get by with using all these appliances throughout the day. And you also want to make sure if you haven't got enough room to take enough solar with you, that you can get by for a day or two where the solar might be less than ideal, because at a certain point you reach a maximum of solar that you can carry. You don't want to set up 10 solar blankets every time you stop, if you know what I mean. Some people might
Imagine
use
the price.
Yeah, some people might use 2 solar blankets, but that's pretty much where it stops. Then you got the roof space, but that is sort of half usable, half not usable, because you might be in the shade. So there is a certain limit of what you can do in mobile setups with solar.
For a longer period of time.
For a longer period of time, yeah. So you want to get your battery bank right. So I ask those people, what are you actually doing? How much 240 are you using? And a lot of people end up using somewhat like 150, 200 amp hours a day. That is already quite excessive.
That's a lot,
but
man.
it is still sustainable. You can quite easily recharge that if you use 2 300 watt solar blankets. You put them in the sun, you get about 150, 200 amp hour back into your batteries.
Wow.
Without driving.
Yeah.
So that is possible. So
It's expensive,
it totally.
but we're talking about the comfortable couple.
Yeah, if you want to be comfortable, it will cost you money.
Yeah.
And then you usually want to go for at least a 2000 watt inverter. Because if you want to use appliances, most appliances use about 1200, 1500 watt, somewhere there. You should have at least a 2000 watt inverter, because the inverters will always do less than what they actually are labeled for, because they're always labeled for the power that's going in. They can take in 2000 watt, but there's losses in an inverter, so they will not put out 2000 watt.
So the rating that's on them is telling you what they draw, not essentially what it's putting out. And you know what? It's funny you just said that, because now that you tell me, I'm like, oh yeah, I should have realised that. But it's often advertised as, this is a 2000 watt inverter. They don't say, this sucks 2000 watts and puts out 1500 watts.
That's right. So it is a bit misleading. So usually if you read the fine print of the specifications, you will find that in there. And another thing is that rating is at 25 degrees. When it's 40 degrees, you can take easily another 10% off that again.
Okay.
So
that's not bad though. Just 10%.
Yeah, that is sort of okay. But if you buy a 1900 watt coffee machine and you buy a 2000 watt inverter, it will not work.
Okay, in 40 degrees.
Even 25 degrees most likely.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you got spare in there. If you want to run a 1500 watt appliance, I would say 2000 watt inverter is the minimum for that. If you go higher than that, get the next step up with your inverter. Because in hot situations, and also just catering for that little bit of wiggle room that you want to leave in there because of the efficiency factor of the unit itself.
Sure.
You don't want to max it out because it doesn't work.
So we've established that if you're a comfortable couple, the sky's the limit. And look, there's everything in between. So that is what you can expect for your battery systems. And we're now going to get Chris in, and we'll have a chat about his realization with his build.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's coming up right now. Welcome back. We got Chris coming in right now. If he can find his way past the cameras and all the cables. Watch out, watch out. There we go. You nearly. Oh, yeah.
How you going?
How are you, mate?
Good. Yeah,
good.
well. Yeah.
Would you like a beer?
Got to drive home, just thinking, am I over the limit? No. Oh, yeah, no, I'll be right. Cool. I'll be right, I had one.
He's done the
That was
equation.
confusing.
Shall we get him something a bit lighter? How about southern
sure.
coast? Yeah.
That'd be good.
Heiner's looking
Cheers.
at it going, that's my favourite beer of the night. It's the last one.
Is that good, is it?
Yeah, my fridge full as well, so we'll be all right.
Oh, yeah. Well, we might have to, we might be here for a while then. This is Chris, our main camera guy. Been on well, a lot of the trips lately, haven't you?
Trips, yeah.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, yeah.
Yep. And we're building a Prado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brand new. Done 800 kilometres.
Have we got a name for it yet?
No, we haven't.
We thought about run and gun, but
Yeah, I don't know if many
Don't know.
people might not get that. They might think there's a
Yeah.
gun in there. That's actually, I did actually pass that one past my wife, and she was like,
What does that mean?
That actually works. Yeah.
it tends to happen when you pass things past wives, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was more
It's like,
thinking it
dunno.
might be cop
Yeah.
bait, really.
Go check your gun license.
Yeah,
please.
pretty much.
Oh, they're just cameras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Run and gun. It's a dusty bronze.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool colour. I like it. I think it's the nicest colour in the Prado range.
I would hope so because you selected it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It looks quite cool. I like
Yeah,
it.
it's a nice. It's a
Yeah,
cool
it does-
colour.
it does look
It's
I like the
really,
colour too.
yeah. I mean, the peacock blues, which Harry's got. That's Harry from 5 to 4. I like that as well. My sister's got that colour. It's cool, but I think the dusty bronze is cool.
I think
Give it a
he,
crack.
I think he got the colour because of the name of it, not the colour. Not see a bit of a peacock. Yeah. Sorry, Harry. All right, back on track.
Yeah.
So today, I won't put words in your mouth, but how much do you feel like you've learnt today?
Yeah,
from-
heaps.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. To be honest, like I didn't know a lot about the electrics in a car, and I'm still learning a lot.
Yeah.
And coming from my Hilux, which was a very basic setup, external battery box, and that's only just got that very late, just because I needed more power.
Yeah.
And using the 100-watt little inverter that was in the Hilux in the glove box, and and I got by. It was all right, but I've obviously got more equipment, and the demands are getting higher. Especially with Ronnie, the trip we just did was 3 weeks away, so. And just having those little luxuries does help. But I did realise that I probably don't need as much power as what I was thinking I needed.
Where do you see yourself in that, in the examples that we just had?
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
budget end and the established couple
Sure.
and the
Yeah.
comfortable.
I think probably I'm into the comfortable. Like I love having some gadgets, and because as I was just saying, being away for long periods, like 3 weeks, long time to be away, and like you kind of.
How far into the comfortable are you? This is the established. This is the
Well,
comfortable.
give it another 5 years, and I reckon I'm going to creep in there.
So you reckon you crept about here, or
I don't know. Well, there's so much good stuff on offer now, like in the
Yeah, it
electric
is true.
stuff, compared to maybe when I first started looking, there's some awesome stuff around. So, but yeah, probably halfway between sort of budget, practical, and the luxury, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I'm using it for work, I'm using it for work, so I'm using it.
The work is
every
pushing
day.
you towards the more comfort side. I
Yeah,
think.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it when I'm out bush, and it's stinking hot, and just having that water with the electric, like those simple things, it just makes your ride, or your journey much more. I don't know. It's better.
I mean, we started with you to ask you the questions as well. What are you actually doing? What are your driving cycles?
Yeah.
I think, and
Yeah.
from that we.
Came up with,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely, obviously, if many people watching Ronnie's show, I mean, how often do we get into camp during the day to use a solar panel? It ain't going to happen. Let's just put that,
bloody lunar
let's
panel.
just get that straight. And we're
lunar
up in the
panel.
morning and we're straight into it. But one thing we do is drive every day. So I'm charging pretty much every day.
Yeah.
But when we do arrive at camp, I'm dumping footage, which is using a computer. I'm charging all my batteries. So I need a big battery. I need to know that in the morning I've still got, enough there.
Yeah.
You know,
and you
so
might
I
want
don't
to do
wanna-
some night shooting, so you want to run
Exactly.
some 240-volt lights.
Sometimes
that
we
you
do
got.
cooking and stuff, and that you saw that light that we used today.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cranking. What were
That
we?
was what, 15 amps using that?
Yeah, so it's fairly, it's using a fair bit. And if we're using that for 45 minutes now, I don't want to have to be worrying about
Yeah.
10 minutes in. Oh crap! Lights. It's
Yeah, no.
So,
it's like, I think for you was really important. We overkill the battery capacity.
Yeah.
We make sure you get good charging from the alternator.
Yeah.
And that way
Yeah.
You should be pretty well
Yeah,
set.
yeah. No, I'm super excited. It's going to be a great build.
I reckon if you ran an AGM for running that light, no way.
No. Did it run on your system on the back of the Hilux? It did, didn't it?
Yeah, but that's lithium.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. It's not AGM. If it was I just think an AGM, you'll kill that battery too quick.
Yeah, sure.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
It is
For
still
that light?
sort of. It is still okay, but once you start using the light and you charge a lot of things, the fridge kicks in. You might be drawing 30, 40 amps out of the battery, and once you start drawing 30, 40 amps from an AGM battery, it sort of drops down pretty quickly.
I'm more thinking of if you only have a 150 AGM, you've only got 75 amp hours.
Yeah.
Whereas a lithium, you can go all the way down, to like 135 or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You can actually easily go to 145. You will not get as many cycles out of that battery, but the battery easily
can do the job. Yeah.
I'm drawing, when I'm testing them, 99.7 amp hours out of a 100 amp hour lithium battery before it reaches 11 volt.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is quite doable.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you wouldn't know because you would test it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming back to the panel as well, so I'm not going to fit a panel on. I'm getting a rooftop tent.
Oh, yeah. So we're talking about your solar.
Sorry, I'm going back.
Your
Solar.
realisation?
Yeah. Just don't want to miss that out because we initially were looking at getting a solar on the top of the rooftop tent, but thinking now probably wouldn't use it that much, to be honest. And I'm thinking maybe we call it foldable, or what do you?
Yeah, a solar blanket.
A blanket.
A
A blanket would be probably work better. So I'll probably just get like a 300 watt blanket.
Yeah.
And then at least when the days maybe where we having a day off, probably doesn't happen that often, but or I'm going away with the family or whatever, I still can, spend the day out and put that out. And
the 300 watt blanket would make sure that even if you want to stay for a longer period of time, set up camp, make sure the fridge keeps running.
Yeah, sure.
Make sure you can charge your phone, use your laptop, all these sort of little creature comforts.
Yeah.
The blanket will take care of that, and with the battery bank that we chose, about 150 amp hour, even if you get a day where you don't do any charging, it will still pull you through.
Yeah, great. So no Nespresso?
You could probably.
Because I've been relying on somebody that we just spoke about earlier. Did we just speak to him? But just having a few issues getting him up in the morning. So
it's 10 o'clock, mate. We bought 70 pods for that trip, and I think I'll be generous here. I think I got 7. I think you might have got 8. But we got. You said you want an alarm for him to wake up.
Yeah, but then you said
it's a knife to the tyre. No, I won't do that.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, that's rough. But we need some kind of, I don't know, snake in the swag. But if I do that, then I'll get spiders in my swag.
Well, just one of those.
You don't want to go there.
Just a rubber snake. It's just, I don't know.
You're going to get a rubber spider, which I guess is okay.
A good way to get around the coffee situation when you don't want to have a big inverter, but you still want good coffee. If you
cold brew.
Yeah, that would probably work as well. I use a percolator on a jet boil.
Yes, it's fun. It's therapeutic.
It is. Plus, I take one of those Nespresso milk frothers that come with the pot machine.
Yeah, that's what makes it.
And I've got a big pot full of coffee. There's really strong coffee. You only need a little bit. It can even be cold because the milk will be hot enough. And the inverter that we put in your car will quite easily run that.
Yeah, cool.
So every time you make a load of milk in that thing, you've got a good latte coffee. Put some sugar in there.
Yeah, it's essential. It's essential. Yeah, if you've got a coffee addiction like I do,
you have.
It's so essential. I will drive to a coffee shop if even if it's a good hour away.
So something you need to know: if you ever travel with Chris somewhere and you lose him, just go to the nearest coffee shop.
Right. Okay.
He sniffs them out. He sniffs out coffee shops that are around these little hook turn corners.
I do research. I do before I go into towns. I'm like,
is this a dodgy alleyway? Where we go? It's like the back of a bloody one of those.
There's a 5-star rated coffee shop there.
Yeah. Coffee's more than just coffee. It's it's that time to come up with ideas and just sort of get into the zone, I suppose, for the day. So I enjoy it. Yeah. Anyway, we're talking
coffee's good.
We're not talking about coffee, are we?
Yeah. All right.
12-volt coffee sort of.
Yeah. I think we should probably wrap this up, and I want to wrap this up with everyone gives the audience a bit of a advice tip from their experience and their take on it. And I think we should start with Chris. Put him in the deep end. What's your advice from what you learned today to people?
Oh, so much. Just check out what you're using. Really, like I think we always think big is better, but it's not always the case. I think just work out what appliances you're using or whatever, and then do some tests, and work it out.
Yeah.
And that's just going to save you a few bucks and probably reduce your size of maybe I don't know, maybe not so much. Maybe just is it more the dollar factor? Do you think that?
I think if you ask me, it's think about what you are going to do. Don't think about what you want to take, what products you want, what products you've seen. First think about, start the thought process of what am I going to do? If you don't know, just start going camping without a lot of stuff and find out what you need. And once you know what you need and how you're going to be camping, because you might be completely different than anybody else, then go, all right, that's what I want to do. What do I need to do that? Ask it that way around. Don't go, I want that and that and that, and then let's see what I can do with it.
I'm going to take one of your sentences out there and use that as my advice, and that is, everyone's different. Everyone's different. So what you see works for someone else is where we get stuck in a trap.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people on tag-along tours. We see all kinds of stuff, all different setups, but you always get the person that looks at the other person, and that person could be looking at that person, grass is greener on the other side. They think because that works for them, it'll work for you. But it doesn't always, that's not always the case, because you get it and you're really excited because we've all been there before, right? It's like, I've seen this and it works. And it's like, it does work, but it's not really what I want. It doesn't really do what I want it to do. Think long and hard about it first, go out, camp, and then think, do I actually really need it? And then make your choice. That's what I think, because it's very easy to get fixed on something. Yes, I want that. I need that. And I think that's the trap, especially this day and age, especially if you are comfortable and you have the money, you make a lot of expenditure mistakes. There's a lot of stuff that I've bought that I think, I thought I needed that, but I don't.
Yeah, and then you find it in the box 2 years later and go, never used that. Yeah, but you needed it at the time, right?
Yeah. Camera equipment's good for that.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to, camera equipment. It's but then it comes in handy later on, like Chris goes, I wish I had, I've actually got one of those, Chris.
I've used it once.
Yeah, you have it.
It's never been used.
Yeah, because I was about to throw it out. All right, well, cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers.
Cool. Yeah, hopefully you guys got something good out of this. Look forward to getting started on your build too, by the way.
Yeah, the Prado project. Yeah, it's going to be cool. Hopefully it'll be...
Especially the back seats coming out and... doing a full custom thing where you got like the right height laptop and everything.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it should be pretty good.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be comfortable.
It's going to be awesome.
Towards the comfort zone.
It's definitely more towards the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cheers.
Yeah. Well, all right, cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me over here.
Cheers to everyone out there watching. And
cheers, everybody.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Talking 4x4. Who knows what we're going to talk about then?